Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the absolute most fascinating business stories in the modern entertainment landscape. If you've been following the news lately, you might actually think theatrical movie experience is just on life support. But there is one massive, towering exception that has completely defined the odds. We're talking about IMAX. They aren't just surviving the current theatrical landscape, they are absolutely dominating it. So today, we're going to break down exactly how this company engineered a spectacular comeback by relying on cutting-edge tech, a brilliant pivot in their content strategy, and a highly lucrative business model. Just look at the standard movie theater industry right now. It is fighting a massive uphill battle against at-home streaming, shrinking theatrical windows, you name it. Consumer habits are just changing. Yet, amidst all of that, IMAX is posting explosive growth and completely record-breaking financial numbers. They're capturing a larger share of the global box office than ever before, and get this, that's despite representing less than 1% of total movie screens worldwide. So the big question we need to answer today is how exactly did IMAX become the undisputed king of the modern box office? What's their secret sauce? Okay, let's dive right into this. We'll map this out like a business case study. First, we'll look at the premium cinema wars. Second, the IMAX technology advantage. Third, their content strategy pivot. Fourth, the record-breaking financial growth. And finally, we'll check out the 2026 blockbuster slate. Starting off with Section 1, the premium cinema wars, literally fighting for the largest screens. So the modern theatrical landscape has shifted, right? Audiences might stay home on the couch for a standard romantic comedy, but for a massive event film, they want a premium large-format screen. Because of this, Hollywood is fiercely battling over a very limited number of these premium screens. To really understand IMAX's dominance, we first have to understand their main competitor in the premium space, Dolby Cinema. Now, a lot of people kind of confuse the two, but they are completely separate companies with very different philosophies on immersion. Dolby Cinema is all built on precision. They use Dolby Vision HDR to give you the darkest darks and the brightest brights, and Dolby Atmos for this insane 360-degree spatial audio. Plus, you usually get those premium reclining seats, but the screen itself typically uses a standard aspect ratio. IMAX, on the other hand, is all about sheer, overwhelming scale. They utilize laser or even physical 70mm projection, but their absolute defining characteristic is that 1.43:1 aspect ratio on massive, floor-to-ceiling, wall-to-wall screens. Instead of plush recliners, IMAX uses stadium seating to ensure you have perfect sightlines to that gargantuan screen. Essentially, Dolby wants you to hear and see perfect contrast. IMAX wants the movie to physically consume your entire field of vision. Moving to Section 2, the IMAX technology advantage, going beyond the standard frame. It's this exact visual philosophy that leads us directly to their core technological advantage. You've probably seen this phrase plastered all over movie posters, filmed for IMAX. But what does that actually mean? Is it just some marketing trick? So the crucial point is that this is a native on-set technological difference. When a studio partners with IMAX for this program, filmmakers are using IMAX-certified digital or physical film cameras to shoot the movie natively in that 1.43:1 aspect ratio. They are physically capturing a taller image right on the set. They aren't just taking a standard movie frame and artificially stretching or cropping it later in post-production. No, they are capturing a fundamentally larger image from the very second the director yells action. And that results in exactly 26% more picture. When you sit in a standard theater, the top and bottom of that original massive image are literally chopped off to fit the standard widescreen format. But in an IMAX theater, that extra 26% completely fills your peripheral vision. For visually expansive films, think massive space epics, sweeping landscapes, huge action sequences. This is not a gimmick, it's a highly tangible upgrade, and audiences are absolutely willing to pay a premium ticket price to experience it. Now, here's a fun insider fact. Not all IMAX theaters are exactly the same. There are actually 3 tiers of projection equipment out there in the wild. At the very top, you've got the holy grail for film purists, IMAX 70mm film. This uses incredibly rare physical film prints that offer just unmatched depth, warmth, and resolution. Then you have the modern premium standard, which is IMAX with laser. This uses dual 4K projectors for incredible brightness and contrast, and crucially, it supports that full 1.43:1 tall aspect ratio. Finally, you have IMAX Digital, sometimes called Xenon. These are older 2K projectors that offer a slightly less tall 1.90:1 ratio. So, pro tip, the next time you buy a ticket for a massive tentpole film, check if your local theater is a laser location so you can get the absolute best version of that expanded aspect ratio. All right, Section 3, the content strategy pivot. It's way more than just Hollywood. Because let's be real, having the best screens in the world doesn't mean much if you don't have something amazing playing on them 365 days a year. And this is exactly where IMAX made a brilliant strategic pivot. Historically, premium screens lived and died by the Hollywood release calendar. If there was a writers' or actors' strike or a studio decided to delay a movie, theaters suffered big time. But IMAX has built this beautifully diversified content portfolio to insulate themselves from all that volatility. Yes, of course they have the massive Hollywood tentpoles like Project Hail Mary and Avatar Fire and Ash. But look at that second point, local language blockbusters. In 2025, IMAX absolutely shattered records with local films. The breakout Chinese animated hit Ne Zha 2 was a massive driver of their global revenue. They also distributed Pegasus 3 and the huge anime hit Demon Slayer. But they didn't stop there. IMAX is now a venue for live events and sports. They've partnered with Apple to broadcast Formula One races live in IMAX. They're also hosting massive concert films for artists like 21 Pilots and special events like Elvis Presley in concert. By diversifying beyond Hollywood, they've basically ensured their theaters are always packed, no matter what's going on in Los Angeles. Which leads us to Section 4, record-breaking financial growth, the 2025 surge. So when you combine a massive technological moat with a bulletproof content strategy, well, what happens to the bottom line? Look at this massive financial surge. And this brilliantly illustrates the payoff. Back in 2024, IMAX was pulling in just over $900 million in global box office. But in 2025, they saw a staggering 40% year-over-year jump, hitting an all-time record of $1.28 billion. And keep in mind, this is all happening while traditional theaters are struggling just to hit their pre-pandemic numbers. Plus, management isn't slowing down anytime soon. They've already guided the markets to an expected $1.4 billion for 2026. And honestly, they're already well on their way to hitting that 2026 target. Let's look at their Q1 2026 financial snapshot. In just the first 3 months of the year, they generated $260 million in global box office. This was heavily driven by the incredible success of the sci-fi film Project Hail Mary, which earned over $90 million in IMAX alone. That's literally more than double their initial projections. But the real story here is the profitability. Net income grew by an astonishing 83% year over year, and earnings per share jumped 75%. They also signed agreements for 23 brand new IMAX systems around the world. This profitability is largely due to their asset-light business model. See, IMAX doesn't actually own the vast majority of these theaters. Instead, they use joint revenue sharing arrangements, or JRSAs, where they provide the tech to exhibitors like AMC or Hoyts in exchange for a direct cut of the box office. When the box office booms, IMAX's margins just expand beautifully. This incredible leverage in their business model is exactly why IMAX Chief Financial Officer Natasha Fernandez confidently stated, IMAX continues to build on the momentum of its record-breaking 2025 and further establish itself as the premier global platform for blockbuster entertainment. You can really hear the executive confidence there, right? They ended Q1 with a massive backlog of 435 IMAX systems just waiting to be installed globally, a super strong cash position, and barely any leverage on their balance sheet. All right, our final section, number 5, the 2026 blockbuster slate, arguably their strongest lineup yet. Let's move to and see how this builds, because to hit that massive $1.4 billion target for the year, IMAX needs product. And frankly, looking at the calendar, they have assembled what might be the greatest large-format film slate in the history of cinema. This timeline is just absolutely stacked with filmed-for IMAX releases. In May, they're bringing Star Wars back to the big screen with The Mandalorian and Grogu. In July, we get Christopher Nolan's highly anticipated The Odyssey, which is making history as the first theatrical feature shot entirely with IMAX film cameras. September brings a massive new Resident Evil film. In November, Greta Gerwig's highly anticipated take on Narnia arrives. And to cap the whole thing off in December, Denis Villeneuve returns to Arrakis with Dune Part 3. Every single one of these films is designed from the ground up to be experienced on an IMAX screen. That unprecedented slate of at least 14 filmed for IMAX releases is the exact reason management is so incredibly confident in this number right here. $1.4 billion. It's huge. They're aggressively expanding their network into underpenetrated markets like Japan, Germany, and Australia, installing between 160 and 175 new systems this year alone just to meet consumer demand. They've essentially trained modern audiences to believe that if a movie is a true cultural event, it simply must be seen in IMAX. Which brings us to a really fascinating crossroads for the entertainment industry. The local sticky-floored multiplex with standard screens, it's kind of becoming a thing of the past. Audiences are speaking with their wallets, and they're demanding massive scale, perfect sound, and an immersive experience that they simply cannot replicate on their living room TVs. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. As standard movie theaters fight to survive, will IMAX's tech-driven strategy become the only way we experience event cinema? It's a question that could literally redefine Hollywood forever. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. I'll see you on the next Explainer.